Hey everyone, welcome to the launch of our Planet Coaster 2 series. First of all, thank you so much to Frontier for providing me with an early access so we can get started. I'm thrilled to share this because today we're diving into one of the most essential parts of any theme park, the entrance. This series is all about walking you through each step as we build a mini park together, covering how-to tips and tricks for anyone starting out in Planet Coaster 2. I'm excited to introduce a new format for my videos that focuses less on speed builds and more on real in-game footage. In this approach, I'll walk you through each step, explaining my decisions as I go and seamlessly transitioning to the next phase of the process after sharing what I'm doing or planning to do. So first of all, we are checking out the foliage and a little bit of rocks here and trying to make a rock cluster that we will use for our entrance to place miniature buildings on top. So I'm pretty much just doing the old trick from Planet Coaster where we have two different sections of each other and we just make them in a circle, and in this way we get like this super nice rock cluster. Though I felt like it was a little bit too wide, so I made it a little bit more thin and just do kind of like the same method as you just saw me do. Afterwards here I was trying to do the lighthouse, and I found this super nice piece here that was kind of like for the resort, but it was a super nice versatile piece that has a lot of cool scaling feature with it as well. So I could kind of like go a little bit better with this and make my own kind of circle, as you can see here. And then afterwards I'm adding another layer, and then afterwards it just keep on kind of like finding the perfect shape. And then afterwards I just duplicate it to getting this super nice cylinder kind of shape so it can look like a lighthouse, and it was really fun to do. So that's kind of like what I'm doing now, and then afterwards we're going to add a little bit more detailing to it after. Let's talk about why an entrance matter. Entrances aren't just gateways, they're the first impression of your park, you know, and they set the tone for everything inside. In this video I'll share my approach and what I kept in mind as I used new Planet Coaster tools and pieces to create a unique entryway for our adventure themed park. The entrance of a theme park is a guest's first look at the experience ahead. It's where excitement builds and the theme comes alive. Think of it as this way. Entrances do more than welcome people, they're an invitation to the story you're telling. They offer guests a first taste of the immersive worlds they're about to step into, and setting up both the theme and the adventure that awaits. Take for example Disneyland. It starts with Main Street, USA, which feels like a small friendly town and gradually reveals a path that leads to the Sleeping Beauty castle. That castle instantly immerses you in fantasy and adventure from the get-go. Or consider Universal Studios with its iconic archway that captures a cinematic feel, immediately setting guests up for the blockbuster movie attractions inside. These entrances aren't just pretty or memorable, they're also functional. They handle things like ticketing, ghost flow, and general information, blending practicality with the instant magic. In this build, I wanted to capture an adventurous feeling with touches of mythology, Viking culture, and aquatic elements to preview the themes that guests will explore inside the park. How to handle new features and pieces in Planet Coaster 2. Now, if you're diving into Planet Coaster 2 for the first time, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed by all the new pieces and features. My advice would be that you don't try to explore everything at once. Instead, have a specific idea in mind and focus on finding just the pieces you need for it. For this entrance, for example, I already knew what kind of look I wanted, so I focused on finding the pieces that would work rather than checking out each individual piece, which also, in a sense, takes a little bit longer time. And since we have the scaling, you don't have to search for the piece because you have other pieces that might fit well with the feature when you use scaling on it. And it just helps you get to know the new elements in the game more naturally, and you quickly learn which pieces are scalable or fit your vision. You can even start by focusing on a single theme, which is something I'll do in later videos to keep the build streamlined and cohesive. Like something I always did in Planet Coaster 1 was every time a new DLC dropped, I try to build something within the theme so I could get to know the pieces and also see what kind of pieces that are more versatile than others, and in that way make my building process way easier. And I assume the same situation kind of works here in Planet Coaster 2. Now it's a whole new game and we have these themes, we have all these pieces we gotta learn. And as you can see here, literally when I say pieces we gotta learn, is that there is a lot of different pieces here. And I really was hoping that more of them were scalable, but as it turns out that some of them, as I said in my previous video, is grid based, so you will never be able to do a scale on those. But I finally managed to find a few pieces that would work well for this lighthouse top here. So yeah, really happy for how this turned out as a little miniature lighthouse situation here. And then now we are moving towards the entrance where we can finally go into and add some roofing, some more rock clusters, and add the 2 other themes that I would like to add here. And also any inspiration tips, like if you're ever unsure of where to begin, don't hesitate to turn to Pinterest and Google Maps for inspiration. Drawing ideas from real life as well and the work of others is one of the best ways to spark your creativity. I have a video I made last year, a tutorial on how to start a park layout. It is basically meant for Planet Coaster 1, but it still works at the same for Planet Coaster 2. It is pretty much how you get ideas and how you brainstorm throughout a whole process of building a new project. And I can definitely recommend that video. It will be in the video at the end here, where you can click it and you can go check it out yourself. But let's go back to building the entrance here, step by step. As I said, we have a main focal point, which is the lighthouse, which is on this rock cluster in the center, representing aquatic and water. It's eye-catching without being too overwhelming, and it gives guests a fine taste of the adventure you are about to get into. And I also just love that it represents water, so in that way we got the water park feature already in the entrance by adding this lighthouse. As I say, we're adding small touches here and there on the left side for the Viking. I'm still getting used to a lot of the pieces since we have so many in the Viking theme, and there are some big ones, there are some smaller ones, but I feel like making this little section on the left here where I pretty much build like it almost looked like a little cuckoo house, you know, but it kind of represents Viking as I wanted it to, and just kind of like the theme of it. And I think it works very well for that, and it just draws the guests in, and it makes it very interesting. And what I'm doing about the entrance here is that I'm working on the composition, the balance. So I don't have each of them at the same heights. One of them is a little bit lower and one is a little bit higher, so we get a nice composition, a nice good balance when you kind of look at this from far away. But basically what I'm doing now is just adding some support beams underneath this wood roof here, and some extra supports to kind of like make it look like it's actually stable and it won't go anywhere. And personally for me, I've always had sort of a niche of having these sort of rock mountain-y wall facades that are integrated into something. And I felt like adding this to this entrance here, where we have like a big adventure park, well, mini park, but a big adventure experience with the Viking, the mythology, the aquatic. I think that it kind of works very well. And as soon as we add a few foliage and some fencing and just making it a little bit more organized, I really feel like this entrance comes to life. And that's just what I love about being creative and coming up with your own ideas, because then you end up with a result like this, and it's way more unique. It might be a little bit more subtle and not so majestic, which I'm not trying to achieve, but it just really works well with these sort of rocks, kind of like representing sort of a mountain-ish facade, and it just works really well. On the right again, we're just doing a very subtle but thematic, giving a small glimpse into a little temple inspired area for the mythological theme. And I'm also stealing a mythological fountain or basin that I want to have beneath the lighthouse here, where I will also add some water elements to like flow down this little rock cluster thing, and it actually looks very, very nice. There's why I kind of do this custom is because I really don't like, I like the shape that are like the patterns that are on this, but I just don't want to have the patterns right here at the entrance. I want to save it for maybe into the park. So unfortunately there's not really like, I can't really remove it completely, so I had to be creative and kind of like cover it up with another piece here. And as you can see, really trying my best to kind of cover this up nicely, but after I kind of get it done, it actually looks incredible, and it really gives that super nice, again, water feature that you know that there are something with water happening inside this theme park. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing right now until we move over to the next bit of the tutorial. Something that's always super important to remember as well when you build like an entrance is to cover up the places you don't want the guest to see. So what I'm doing here as well is that I'm adding a few flower beds to get a little bit of, you know, foliage, greenery into this whole build here, which will all the time boost the environment and like what you are building and what you have built. And I felt like adding these sort of things is just the right thing to do in no matter what situation you are in. It always just adds to the charm of your park. So as you can see at the left and right side, I put up two different fencing, kind of like just to get a little bit of different textures in. And then we're pretty much kind of like adding a few extra details here and there, adding some lampposts here from the Viking theme, which I really, really like these guys here. And you can see how much immersive and serene this area has become now when we have all these trees and bushes and a little bit of fencing everywhere around, and it just adds so much to the whole area, and it's just such an important thing to do. And it's also very realistic. You experience this in a lot of theme parks, like right where you go into the entrance, there's always this nice little mini plaza that's not too occupied and too busy. It's a good thing to remember to consider next time you build an entrance. One thing I was kind of sad about was that we do not have a lot of bonding in the game from start off. So what I had to do is I had to make my own, but luckily we got the scaling. So I took these basic shapes, the triangle ones, and basically just made them small enough so they can look like bonding. And I just dress up the entrance a little bit here, as you can see. So we get like this nice little festive celebratory experience vibe that will go with the entrance here. And yeah, I kind of liked how it turned out. And remember, this is kind of like my go on an entrance. I wanted to do something that was like kind of basic, not too majestic, as I mentioned before. And I didn't want it to have like a big open like Victorian style buildings or facades. I just kind of wanted a more open, low budget, kind of high budget at the same time too, atmosphere for when you enter here. So whatever you feel like doing is completely up to you. This is just kind of like my thought process I wanted to share with you on how I kind of get through it and how I end up building and how the result becomes, because it's not always that what you have in mind at first, that's how the build ends. And since we're building a smaller park, a mini ticket booth is kind of essential. And you have that everywhere for realistic parks as well. This is close to the entrance and it keeps things realistic. Some parks have ticket counters beyond the entrance, while others have a full facility nearby with information kiosk, restrooms, tickets, and services. Here I wanted to just go with a more simple, cozy booth that suits a small park setting. This park would not expect to have a lot of visitors throughout the day. With the small features and small rides and coasters we are going to have in this little series of ours. So that's why I kind of like just had this little cozy small ticket booth and just a few cattle pins, fencing for line management, and surrounded with foliage. And what is cool too is that they have a little font that you can change the way you want, as you saw. It has a lot of different font styles you can use, and this one I kind of felt like was perfect. So I ended up detailing a little bit custom detailing to the facade of this ticket booth here, and then afterwards, as I say, I just close it up nicely, and then we are installing a few cattle pins fencing for the line management, and then we are covering up the right side with a little bit more foliage and fencing. And after that, we're going over and just kind of making a sign with the font that are in the game. I went very basic here and just called it Adventure World, because that's kind of like what it is for this time. And then we'll just wing it after that and just have it called that. So unfortunately, I can't have it completely divided with the same amount of letters, so it kind of throws off a bit. But I thought, what if I scale them a little bit together and just made it like this instead, because then it's not too crazy for the eye. I have also kind of like just went back and added a little bit of clutter and some more stuff on the left side of this little Viking tower. But of course, we gotta have a little bit of realistic touches, so I do add a little bit of a pole here to hold on to the letters. And then afterward, we are pretty much going back to do some path work here. And yeah, let's move over to that section. And to keep the entry area welcome and functional, I've also created some custom lampposts, and I add a few benches and bins just to make it more guest friendly. Also adding these super cool Planet Coaster banners that are really adding to the vibe of the entrance area here. And I'm also going back to the cattle pen just to make them a little bit smaller with the scaling, because I felt like they looked a little bit chunky. And there you have it, guys, the entrance to our mini park in Planet Coaster 2. This entrance really sets the stage for what's to come in the park, and it gives guests an instant sense of adventure. Entrances are more than just functional spaces, they're the first step into the story and the theme of your park. This is an adventure that people are about to experience in the best way possible. In the next episode, we'll dive into dock rides, and I'll show you how to use the new progress timeline for trigger effects to really amp up the immersion. So make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope you liked it. Bye now.